Hi there. My name is Mike Kenny. I am Coordinator of Grants and Communications for Toms River Regional Schools, and I am joined today by our Superintendent, Mike Citta, and we are going to chat about everything going on in the district. Now, Superintendent Citta, it's been a lot, so I think the easiest thing to do is to start with the most recent news, which is that yesterday the state released its aid allocations for public school districts. Can you tell us how much Toms River stands to lose and a bit of the context behind that?
Yeah, I'd love to, and thanks, Mike, for having this conversation with me. Again, it's Michael Citta. I'm the Superintendent of Toms River Regional Schools, and I'm happy to have this conversation. It's important that our community gets to hear what's going on inside, what we face, and what our path is to provide all of our opportunities for our children. So to speak a little bit about some history, and yesterday our state aid numbers were released, which is the amount of money that the Department of Education appropriates to the Toms River Regional Schools for its children and its programs. And as you're well aware, and as our community has been well aware, over the last 7 years, we've been labeled as what they call an S2 district. By the state of New Jersey's terms, those are districts that they feel, that the state feels, have not paid their local fair share in taxes. And they've created a formula to redistribute or reallocate those funds over the course of the state and to get everybody in line so that they're paying their fair share. So 7 years ago, when this started, it came as a shock to all of us, because Toms River Regional Schools is been and has been and currently is the lowest spending district in the state of New Jersey, which isn't something we're proud of, because that means we spend less on kids and programs than anybody else in the state of New Jersey. But yet, over the last 7 years, through the funding formula, we've had $137 million taken away from our state funding that all goes to student programming. I want to speak to that for a second, if you don't mind, Mike, because it really is remarkable when you look at the size of Toms River Regional Schools. Mm-hmm. You look at the fact that we have 15,000 students, 3,000 staff members, 20 building locations, 19 schools. Mm-hmm. We've lost all this funding for our children and opportunities, but yet I look back very proud at a community that has constantly been resilient because of the character of our community. When I say our community, I'm talking about our regional community, South Toms River, Beechwood, Pine Beach, and Toms River. Mm-hmm. The love and passion that they have for education and their programs, how important it is for all of our children to be involved. We have a strong identity in Toms River. That's why we have these shirts on today, you know. We wear them proudly every Friday. One district, together in unity. Mm-hmm. And this past year alone, we have put in new programs to expand opportunities for children, whether they be pre-vocational, whether they be advanced placement classes, whether it be the academies. We've done the attendance initiative, where we've seen a 20% drop in our chronic absenteeism. Mm-hmm. We've talked about that often. And we've just got done with our diagnostic testing, and we're watching our students grow at a rate that they haven't in the last couple of years. So we have all this exciting stuff happening in Toms River after all those hardships have come across us. And I think we need to recognize the community, and they need to hear from me the appreciation, because that happens not because of Mr. Citta, mm-hmm. or Mr. Kenny or our administration teams. It happens because of our students, our teachers, and the support that they get from their families in the community. And we're really proud of what has been accomplished. Mm-hmm. But that kind of sets the stage for our conversation today, right?
Yes.
Because we're at a point in Toms River where these cuts can no longer happen. Mm-hmm. Last year, I remember every year I go around from school to school, and we have a conversation about the budget and what that brings. And in the last few years, we have cut over hundreds of positions through attrition and retirement. There's been programming and transportation during COVID that has been limited, and things because of the state aid funding that we have gotten. We have tried to reallocate and restructure to maintain a thorough and efficient education. But last year, if you recall, my speech went around to everybody and we talked about $15 million because we were hit with a $14.4 million loss. Yesterday, I found out we lost another $2.8 million.
Wow.
You know, so collectively, the last 2 years, a $17.2 million loss that we have to make up in conjunction with a whole bunch of other things in this year's budget. So last year, when we build a budget, you build it in two ways, right? You have your expenditure side and your revenue side.
Yep.
And on our expenditure side are all the dollars we spend on kids' programs, curricular, extracurricular, the salaries of the staff, transportation, health insurances, things like that. And on the other side, you have your revenue, which is built, where you have your tax allocations, your state aid, your federal grants, your special ed grant money. Well, last year we built a budget that kept everything same over here on the expense side, because we know in Toms River, we said we are not going to cut one child's program from this budget, kind of over our dead body type of attitude, because we have been unfairly treated through this funding formula over the past 7 years, and we're to the point where we won't be able to open our doors if we don't take that stance.
Yes.
So last year we worked and we lobbied with a whole bunch of senators and different people to get together and tell our story. We were able to get about $9 million of that $14 million back, kind of in a Band-Aid, in a one-shot loan back from the state.
Okay.
And then we turned to our community partners and our mayors and our towns, and we sold some trees that remain trees in Silver Bay, right?
Yes, sir.
And we were able to survive last year without any cuts because we did those things. But this year, with this news of the 2.8 and that 14.4 coming back, we're looking at a $27 million problem in Toms River Regional Schools this year. $27 million.
That is incredible. And I know that the people in and around Toms River are well aware of our S2 plight that has been going on for 6 or 7 years now. But for someone from the outside looking in who may have seen Governor Murphy's Tuesday address, where he is touting a budget that is allotting some $900 million to public education, how can it be with that amount of funding that Toms River is losing money?
Yeah, it's beyond me. I mean, as you're well aware, Mike, and our community has over the past couple of years, we have actually sued the Department of Education in the state of New Jersey to get the formula, the actual formula on what it is.
Yes.
We received a letter from the Attorney General that believe it or not, and I know this is going to floor you, the letter actually says that they can't provide us the formula because every time they run it, it self-destructs. Kind of like a cartoon.
Yeah,
this message will self-destruct, and they can't give us the formula.
Wow.
But in this case, there's been a reallocation of $1 billion more in public education in New Jersey, right? And 154 districts, or considered S2 districts in this state, have been losers and lost money every year. And this year, it's to the tune of $107 million of those 154 districts. So the 400 and change left over got the 107 million from us, plus 900 million more infused into the state budget. We have the same type of kids in Toms River as they do in Newark, Jersey City, Patterson, Woodbridge, Hamilton. Hamilton's got a similar demographic to us, and yet they received a $24 million increase this year. So it's frustrating. It angers us. I don't understand the logic behind it. I really don't, because it hurts kids. And it puts in a situation where we have to figure out how we move forward with a $27 million deficit.
Well, that leads me to my next question, which is, well, what now? And I know there's things floating out there, one of those being something that our neighboring districts like Lakewood and Jackson have had to resort to, which is requesting a loan from the state. What would that look like? Is that an option for Toms River? And how would it affect a district like ours, which is pretty unique in its size and other factors?
Yeah, well, let's talk about that a little bit, Mike. And to me, as I tell this story, there's three options. We have three options, and we're lucky and fortunate in Toms River to even have a third, I think, and we'll get to that as we talk through our story. But the first option being that the state of New Jersey realizes what they've done to these districts and Toms River alike, wakes up and gives us our $30 million in aid back, okay? Because what happens is in New Jersey, they have a number, and it's called adequacy. The state of New Jersey in the funding formula has this word, and it's adequacy, and it's really the dollar amount per child that a school district should be spending from all its revenues and taxes. It should be spending to provide the child a thorough and efficient education. Do you know in Toms River we are under adequacy? And do you know by how much every year we're under adequacy?
I know what it used to be, but I don't know what it is now, and I'm scared to ask.
$71 million a year we are under adequacy. Those are the state's numbers on what we should be spending.
Wow.
So, you know, it really does floor me when we find out these numbers and see what's happening to different types of districts with this formula in this state. But we have three options. The first option is they realize that we are under adequacy and they should revisit their formula before they vote on it and redistribute the $900 million more that they're spending and provide those dollars to make sure we get whole. Or at least go back 2 years and freeze the aid until you redo the funding formula that obviously does not work.
Yes.
That's option one.
The fingers crossed option.
I am not, fingers crossed, pie in the sky, don't think it's happening option. Option two is what you just mentioned. Now the Department of Education already knows what problem we have in Toms River with our funding. They recognize our spending. They know we have nothing else to cut. So they said, well, you might be eligible for a loan. Gee, thanks. A $30 million loan in Toms River that is a one-time fix to our budget problem. So next year, what do we borrow? 60 million?
Yeah.
And then a year after that, 90 million? You know, where does it stop?
Yeah.
This has to be addressed. And we don't have to look any further than Lakewood and Jackson, who have started. Jackson last year started their loan. And Lakewood has been taking a loan year after year. I think they're up to almost $200 million in loans. Those loans have to be paid back by the taxpayers of Toms River, Beechwood, South Toms River, and Pine Beach. Those loans also come with other stipulations. A state monitor to oversee how you spend your dollars in your district. We've already stated, Mike, that Mr. Citta, our administration, our Board of Education, we can't cut one more thing from our budget. Because do you know what $30 million would equate to if we cut $30 million out of our budget?
I can't imagine.
400 teaching spots, not just teaching, 400 jobs in Toms River. It would be every curricular and extracurricular thing that we have, this TV studio, all our sports teams, anything that is not mandated by the state of New Jersey, which includes kindergarten, by the way, AP classes, our academies. We would have to get rid of all of them, and we still wouldn't hit 27 million.
Wow, okay.
So our approach to this is going to be the same as last year. We are going to present a budget that holds everything at bare minimum, which is what we have now, so we can not take one opportunity away from a child in Toms River. And we're going to present a budget that has a revenue hole of $27 million, and we need to have that filled. But if it comes with a loan, it comes with the fiscal monitor that gets to make those decisions. And if you look at Jackson and what happened to them last year, and you paid attention to what's going on, they've had an extra 10% decrease, I believe, in their administration and staff. They had to start to cut non-mandated things that were expensive, like ice hockey and gymnastics and swimming, and they've had to try to co-op with other districts to get those opportunities for their children. You know, that's what a future could look like in Toms River if the loan is the answer.
Well, I'm hoping that the third option is much better than the first two.
Well, the third option, and is one we're going to talk about right now, is at least one where we could possibly control our own destiny.
Okay.
And we can do that, and that is the regionalization. And I know it's been out in the newspaper, and there's been a lot of articles on regionalization with Seaside Heights and Toms River, and what does that look like. And I think in order to know what that looks like and how that affects Toms River and kids, you need to know a few things first, okay? The first and foremost thing you need to know is every decision that gets made in Toms River Regional Schools by me and recommendation that I give to the board follows a very simple recipe. Number one, does it benefit children?
Yes.
Because if it doesn't benefit children,
we
don't go to number two. Number two is, how does this support our staff to benefit the children?
Okay.
And number three is, how does this affect our taxpayers? What are we spending? And are we spending it wisely to do so? So in order for anything to be recommended by me, it has to follow those three for any decision that I make. Regionalization started in Seaside Heights with Toms River in a study 2 years ago.
Okay.
2 years ago, in 2021, 2 years prior to me becoming superintendent, interim superintendent Tom Gianella and the board signed an agreement to go into a study with Seaside Heights. Now, why? Because Seaside Heights has been receiving transitional aid because of its redevelopment and because of Superstorm Sandy. And one of their requirements to get that aid was to enter into different studies to see if there was any savings to their town and taxpayers through shared service agreements.
Okay.
In other words, partnering with different entities to see if there was a cost saving for their community.
Okay.
So they didn't have to accept anything, but they had to go into a study.
Called a feasibility study.
Correct.
Sure.
Yep. So that was a two-part study. First study was called a send-receive study, and then the second being a regionalization.
Okay.
So my first month when I became superintendent 2 years ago was looking at a send-receive proposal in a feasibility study. And remember my checklist, right?
Is it good for kids?
So a feasibility study on send-receive is this. Seaside Heights would take its Hugh J. Boyd School and all the children in it and their teachers, and they would come to Toms River, and we would absorb their staff, and they would pay a per tuition cost for their students to come here. And there would be roughly a savings to Seaside Heights of about $1 million a year, and an additional profit to our taxpayers in Toms River to about $500,000 a year in send-receive.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the picture of it. But it's the first criteria: is it good for kids? Well, bringing students to Toms River so they can go to an elementary school and then to a middle school for 6th grade, and then after 6th grade, 1/3 of their way into middle school, get on a bus and go to Central Regional, is not good for kids.
No.
So we scrapped that right.
Continuity of
yeah,
education.
no continuity of instruction, and what a disruption to those children and to our school. So we said no, absolutely. You know, the only person, believe it or not, that would have benefited from that would have been myself, because I would have got a stipend to be the superintendent in Seaside Heights on top of Toms River. Okay, but it didn't pass the first leg of what's good for kids.
Okay.
So we moved forward, and the next study was a feasibility study on regionalization.
Okay.
Regionalization is different. Regionalization means that you take all the students in Seaside Heights and they become part of Toms River Regional Schools District. Just like in 1959, when we regionalized with South Toms River, Beechwood, and Pine Beach. And they become part of Toms River Regional Schools. With that, initially in the study, okay, was the students would leave Hugh J. Boyd School, come over to Eastover, because that is the location that I gave in the study as they were doing the study, because it had the room to take those kids and their staff. The children would have the same supports that we have all in Toms River for every child here. We know nobody does it better than our teachers and our community.
Absolutely.
They also wouldn't be getting on a bus from 7th grade to 12th grade an hour and a half each way, which provides less time on programs and academics, and they would be coming over here to Intermediate East and High School East, which is a 10 or 15-minute bus ride,
Okay.
where they could be involved in those academics. So was it good for kids? In our opinion, yes. The feasibility study then said, you know, my second category, is it good for our staff? How do we support our staff? Well, we would also take their entire staff and absorb them into Toms River at no cost.
So no one loses a job.
Nobody loses a job in Toms River, Beechwood, South Toms River, and Pine Beach. No cost to them. We would take their staff, and we would be able to lower class sizes in Eastover by adding sections. So does that support our teachers to help support our children? Absolutely. Okay.
Sounds like it.
So 2 boxes are checked. So then the feasibility study went over the finances and how this would affect Seaside Heights and Toms River. So over the 10 years in Seaside Heights, there'd be a saving of about $8 million to the Seaside Heights taxpayers by doing it this way.
Okay.
And in Toms River Regional, our districts, the feasibility lays out that the savings over the 10 years are on the upwards of $40 million. $40 million of dollars that come to Toms River that go right to kids and kids programs.
Okay.
That the Toms River taxpayers, the Beechwood taxpayers, the Pine Beach taxpayers, and the South Toms River taxpayers don't have to spend. Not a dollar.
And that's not money that's just applied to Eastover or
No.
Intermediate
It's
East.
not how a regional district works, Mike, because I live in Toms River. I'm a parent of Toms River Regional School students. My dollar, my tax dollar in Toms River gets split up and benefits 25 cents per dollar for each school district.
Okay.
It gets, all of our kids get the same opportunities and same expenses and same education, no matter their location in the regional district.
Okay.
So we looked at that and we said, wow, that's a pretty much win-win for us, because that $7.5 million that would come to Toms River from Seaside Heights is every year for the rest of a regional school district. So that is what we call sustainable revenue, not a one-time Band-Aid fix.
Sure.
Helps us solve our long-term problems without affecting the taxpayers.
That's outstanding, and it does sound like a win-win, and maybe even more so in how this proposed regionalization or merger applies to recent legislation. Can you talk about that a little bit?
I would love to, because there's, $7.5 million doesn't fix our $27 million problem.
Sure.
But there's another part to this, and it came almost as a gift, as a law that was passed in August by Governor Murphy.
Okay.
So last year, all the S2 districts who got hammered, I mean, we lost $14.4 million, right?
Yeah.
We're all crying and arguing about how can you do this to us, and we're losing. I'm not going to be able to provide sports. I'm not going to be able to provide AP classes. I'm not going to be able to provide busing. And one district was extremely loud, in Freehold Regional. And if you remember in the newspaper, they talked about not being able to provide courtesy busing any longer.
Yes.
It was about a $5 million loss that they had, and they needed to reinstate courtesy busing. So 2 legislatures, senators in their district, Senator Zwicker and Senator Gopal, wrote this bill, S 3950, and it got signed into law in August by the governor.
Okay.
And what it said was, the bill, it said, if a school district meets these criteria, your aid will be restored 2 years prior and frozen in perpetuity.
Okay.
Okay, so being the lowest spending district in the state of New Jersey, I couldn't wait to see what the criteria looked like.
Sure.
Because this could be a big win for Toms River. Well, the first being you have to be under adequacy. I already told you we were $71 million under adequacy. So check. We qualify. The second was you have to spend more, this is a tongue twister,
Okay.
I'm sorry, less than 15%. I'm going to retract that. I told you it was a tongue twister. More than 15% less than the state average on cost per pupil.
Okay.
Okay? So we're the lowest spending, so obviously we spend a lot less than the average of cost per pupil, well more than 15% less.
Okay.
The same for administrative cost per pupil. We're the third lowest, I believe, in the state.
I think that's accurate.
So we are much less than, so check, check. The last is you have to be a regional school district. Whoa, if this happens, we can get our $14.4 million back. Whatever we're going to lose this year, which we found out yesterday was $2.8 million, okay? But guess what? You have to be a regional school district with at least 5 municipalities. Well, Mike, do you want to guess how many districts last year in the whole state of New Jersey met all those criteria?
I'm going to guess 1.
1, Freehold Regional.
What a coincidence.
So the law was signed into effect, and Freehold Regional got their courtesy busing. And after looking at the aid yesterday, the law works. They were held flat. They got their money back from the year before. It does what it says it's going to do, which is the other carrot to a regionalization. Because the only thing Toms River doesn't have is the fifth regional district. In fact, if the law was written with 4 municipality regional districts, we would have been the only one that qualified along with Freehold Regional.
Sure.
But this is a law now that we can take advantage of. It's the state's law, and if a regionalization happened, we would get the $14.4 million back, plus the 2.8, plus the 7.5. And all of a sudden, our $27 million problem becomes manageable, and we don't have to have this discussion every year, ever again. We could start talking about building more programs for Toms River. We could start supporting these children, these less than 300 children from Seaside Heights. But I understand there's a lot of concerns from members of Seaside Heights about losing a community school. I can't imagine if I recommended closing South Toms River or North Dover or Citta School, what it means to that community. So there's a lot of empathy with those things, which I'm happy to report that this week we were able to work with the mayor and the school board at Seaside Heights and change the study, not the financials, but the physical outcome that we can take and get the Seaside Heights School and operate it there just like we do South Toms River, Beechwood, Pine Beach, and the 9 other schools in Toms River. So that community will keep their community school for the foreseeable future until enrollment drops to a point where it's not effective to open a school. And I'm happy for those kids and our kids that if it's passed, we can provide that opportunity.
So under this latest response to the merger, the district would absorb a 19th school, a 20th learning building, and everything continues to sound like a win-win. But where do we stand on that as far as the dialogue with the state, as far as what's needed to put this out to a public vote, a referendum? Where are we as of today?
Well, it's important we talk about the timelines of things, because you need a referendum vote, and the Toms River Regional School District would need to vote, which means every member in its regional school district would have a voting member, be able to vote publicly if they would like to see this happen, and it would have to pass by a majority, and every voting member of the borough of Seaside Heights would vote, and it would have to pass there. Those are the only 2 entities that would have to pass to make regionalization come to fruition, but we need the commissioner's approval to do so. And in order to qualify for S3950, we need to have that vote in this fiscal year. Our fiscal year starts July 1 to June 30th, right? So the state gives 4 dates that it can hold referendums outside the normal elections of November. And the last date on the calendar this year was March 12th, which is why it was such a rush to get all this done, as I had a study that hit my desk around Thanksgiving, and then you have to give 60 days notice to the Board of Elections to have a referendum, and then wait for a commissioner who, by the way, just got his job on February 12th to review all this important material. I'm still very hopeful that the commissioner will make a ruling very soon.
Okay.
We've also looked into additional dates because of other legislation, like 18A, which is the school statute for public education,
Okay.
18A 13-43, which allows the commissioner to pick, to have a vote or mandate a vote or allow for a vote on the third Tuesday in April on rulings of expansion only, which this would be an expansion of a regional district.
Okay.
So we're hopeful that even though the March 12th date doesn't look like a reality, that possibly an April 16th would,
Okay.
and that would keep S 3950 very much so alive for our taxpayers to make that decision if this is the answer that we need. I don't know other answers. You know,
Sure.
certainly in the future we've talked about doing whatever we can to protect Toms River Regional Schools, and sometimes I call it the nuclear option, which would be a federal lawsuit, which we're prepared to do. But you know, lawsuits take time and money, and the only people that get to suffer while we fight in court and argue in court would be our children. So if we have an opportunity to solve our own problem, I think our taxpayers need to hear this, and I think they need to weigh in on if this is something that they want to be a part of. I do believe that the children in Seaside Heights will, who by the way in the 1940s were already a part of Toms River Regional Schools District. Everybody in the Barrier Island and Island Heights at one time was part of Toms River Schools.
Sure.
You know, we'll all benefit from this, because those dollars that come over with those kids, again, get spent on all of our children, not just the Seaside Heights children.
Sure. So our budget issues and this potential merger, which are directly interconnected, are big news on a state level, certainly on a local level. You and I have been fielding plenty of media requests, and obviously we're doing this right now. What else have you been doing personally to get the word out to our schools, to our staff members, to our families, just to educate them about what lies ahead?
So every year I go around and I do the kind of the state of the state to all of our staff and all of our employees anyway, and our families and PTOs, and I've already started that process as I have to, and I enjoy getting out there and speaking to it. I one day look forward to going out and giving a state of the state that doesn't have a doom and gloom picture on it.
Sure, I bet.
But it's, you know, the message has been well received, and the idea is that people get educated on it. Nobody's asking anybody to persuade, you know, sway their opinions on what we do to move forward. But I think you need to know all the facts and why these decisions and how they come to fruition, and what we do to present opportunities for children, and the decisions that I make, and the thought process behind us, and the board that has been extremely supportive throughout the process. But I've had about 15 to 20 meetings so far.
Okay.
As soon as I get commissioners' approval, I'll have town halls in other locations that are open to the taxpayers and the public.
Okay.
We felt to expedite it, you know, this conversation with you, which can reach anyone and anywhere at any time. They can hear it from the horse's mouth. My email is mcitta@trschools.com, and if you
Write it
see
down.
this and you have questions and you want to contact me or give me a call at the office, I'd be happy to talk about it. It's too important to not talk about it and be responsive, because this is the future of our children. These are the opportunities that go along and to support them, and we're not giving up rowing in the right direction and making sure Toms River remains one district together in unity every step of the way.
Absolutely. And as we wrap this up, and anyone who might be watching this might be saying to themselves, what can I do to help? Is there anything you want to say to the residents and families of the greater Toms River area who might be asking that question?
You know, I mean, there's a lot of ways you can help and get involved when it comes to supporting our school district and supporting our children's and their opportunities, and that comes in whatever way is comfortable for our parent. It could be volunteering, it could be time, it could be, you know, writing the legislators and pointing out the atrocities that have gone on. But as I've told my teachers, and I would say this to our parents too, we need to be the role models for our kids. And I can't let my staff get caught up in the anger and the frustrations of the what ifs and the unknown, because we only have so much time with those kids and the interaction that we do to help make them grow, and the influence that we make to inspire our children to make their dreams. They are the district. Our teachers and our students are the district. There are our community. They're every part of it. It's not the administrative team. It's not the Board of Education. So I tell them, I said, you need to focus on that. I will continue to focus on this, but you need to be educated on the why.
Okay.
And let your voice be heard if a vote comes about.
Sure.
And I would say the same to my parents, because our parents, our kids are coming home and they're going to have questions and they're going to have concerns and they need the nurturing and they need the support. And this whole thing doesn't work unless we work in unison together. Education doesn't work without the support of the home, the buy-in of the child, and the expertise and the love and the passion of the teacher. So continue doing what you do, because our community is greater and more special than any community I've ever been around. Raised and proud to be Toms River.
No one knows more than you who've traveled this district from day one. And as we wrap this up, Superintendent Citta, I thank you for sitting down and speaking about this. These are, like I said, hot topics, and now it's all out on the table. And again, we appreciate it. And I thank all of you out there for listening. And you have his email address if you need to get in touch. And hopefully the next time we do this will be with good news, or we won't have to do it at all. We will see.
Well, we'll see. But we're going to continue to move forward. We're going to continue to present opportunities for kids, because that's our job to do it.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for watching.